Welcome to Platters TV. Today we're exploring the magic world of Cabernet Franc. Cabernet Franc is said to be the father of Cabernet Sauvignon, which is much more famous, but Cabernet Franc on its own is a very noble cultivar. He is the king of the Loire Valley, and like any cultivar from the Loire Valley, he likes cool weather, mild weather, a lot of rain and moisture, and that's why in South Africa it is often found only closer to the coast, and at least that's why it's producing the best of what it can offer. Cabernet Franc is giving a perfumed wine. It's not a massive full-bodied wine. It's often textured on the palate. It's got flavors, very spicy, herby, dried herbs, but a long finish, and this wine can be perfect food matcher and not a substitute to Cabernet Sauvignon at all. It's actually more medium-bodied and a great food wine that can age for very long. In its original region of the Loire Valley, you will find that in Bourgueil, in Chinon. This wine is known to be a medium-bodied, not really fruity. It can be austere when young, but developing wonderful flavors over the years. And in South Africa, you know, Cabernet Franc is worth much more than just being a blending partner in a Bordeaux blend. It's on its own. Cabernet Franc is like 80-100 hectares, less than 1% of the total acreage of South Africa in red grapes, but it's got a lot to offer, and we found a few dedicated winemakers that have been taking this cultivar to make it a great wine. Okay, Platters TV, we are glad today to welcome Brewer Rats to talk about Cabernet Franc. Brewer Rats is known as the king of Cabernet Franc, but you know, being the king of Cabernet Franc, isn't it a bit small? It's like being the king of Monaco. Nobody knows Cabernet Franc. It's, what, don't you feel you should have been selecting some things bigger like Cabernet Sauvignon that people know about it?
Yeah, Jean-Vincent, it is like being the beauty queen of some small little obscure country, but on the other hand is that, you know, why be the same than everybody else, especially if you can work with something as rich as Cabernet Franc and that have so much to offer.
Cabernet Franc, some say it's from Bordeaux, some say it's from the Loire Valley. What is your idea on that, brewer? I
definitely agree that it is from the Loire Valley. Cabernet Franc doesn't originate from Bordeaux. I think wrongly people categorize Cabernet Franc as a Bordeaux variety. I think it is not. It is definitely a Loire variety. And I think the biggest mistake in South Africa and in the New World is that people plant it with other Bordeaux varieties, and that's what a lot of the time doesn't work. So I think it's important that you understand that Cabernet Franc has its own unique soil type that it needs, and that it's a variety pretty much on its own and not to classify it with a Bordeaux grouping. So it means that Cabernet Franc is happy in Europe on the north of the 45th parallel. Don't you think that we're a bit warm in South Africa, where actually we are 33rd parallel south? If there's one variety that is very terroir specific, and probably the most so from all varieties, it's Cabernet Franc. It is a very highly strung thoroughbred racehorse, and if you don't get the soil type right, if you plant it in too warm or too cool climate, it will show. So it is of essence where in every wine growing region, there's always special little south-facing slopes that's higher out, that are cooler, and that is exactly what you need to go and do when you plant Cabernet Franc in a South African condition, is go and find those very special spots that have well-drained soils, that has a bit of dolomite in them, and that is not too fertile, because that's one of the problems. I think we plant it in too fertile soil and we get excessive growth, which enhances the greenness, which is maybe not always favorable in Cabernet Franc. So I think that if you're very selective and you select those special cool spots in South Africa, Cabernet Franc can do fantastically in our conditions.
You realize that Cabernet Franc originally comes from the Loire and its specific climate and specific soil, but locally it's been mostly planted to be part of the Magic Five, the Bordeaux cultivars, along with the Merlot, the Cabernet Sauvignon, the Malbec and the Petit Verdot. Why didn't you go the easy route of just blending your wine?
Cabernet Franc, I believe, as a single variety, is the best single variety you can make in the world, for the simple reason, if you compare it to, like you said, Cab, Merlot, Petit Verdot, Malbec. They all got two dimensions, fruit and herbaceousness. What Cabernet Franc has got extra on the nose is spiciness, and the spice in Cabernet Franc is different to that which you find in Shiraz, that white and black pepper. The spice in Cabernet Franc is cinnamon, clove, coriander, nutmeg, almost like a Chinese five spice, if I may call it that. So Cabernet Franc has got a third dimension on the nose, which the other varieties doesn't have, and it's on the palate. It's very perfumey, it's very flavorful, with the silky soft tannin, great preciseness of fruit with great acidity and freshness. And if you can make a single variety like that, what do you want more from a red wine?
Yeah, you know, you might not be the king of Cabernet Franc, but you're definitely the best ambassador for it. What a normal client should expect when they order a bottle of Cabernet Franc in a restaurant? What fruit profile, what they should find in a bottle?
If you look at Cabernet Franc compared to something that's much more well-known like Cabernet Sauvignon, where Cabernet Sauvignon you can compare to a broad-bladed sword, Cabernet Franc is the scalpel. It has elegance, it is very precise, it is not a big blockbuster style of wine. So what comes to mind when you look at a wine and you want to order a Cabernet Franc, you look at something that's going to have complexity, that's going to have elegance, and that will never overpower your food because it has this very fine delicacy and the way it delivers your food. So it's very precise in how it delivers it, and I think that's why you must look at it, is that actually, and that's why I said earlier, I think it's much more to do with Loire. If you look at Loire Cabernet Franc, it is very opposite to what you expect from a Bordeaux. And that is what I think people should look for Cabernet Franc, is for elegance, complexity with that beautiful spice.
So it's not a physical wine, it is a spiritual wine.
Forgive me for saying this, but I think Cabernet Franc is a thinker man's wine, because when you pour a glass of Cabernet Franc, it's not going to give you everything in the first go. As you taste the wine, you're going to get that herbaceousness, you're going to get the fruit. When you come back to it 5 later, you're going to have the spiciness. So Cabernet Franc is something that will keep you busy the whole evening, because every time you go back to it, you see a new dimension, a new flavor.
So like wine is part of the lifestyle, it's lifestyle we all enjoy. What do you eat with Cabernet Franc? When you go to the restaurant, how do you pair this magic cultivar with this scalpel attitude and this complexity?
I think lamb and rosemary were created on the same day as Cabernet Franc. It's an absolute beauty. Then game in the South African context, springbok, kudu, gemsbok, finer meats with less fat but more finer flavors. And then obviously game bird, duck, pheasant, tarantal or guinea fowl. So more the delicately but flavorful meats, which is usually, as I said, game bird, venison and lamb.
So we're going to have problem with the SPCA, and we're going to have to start shooting the pigeons in the city, yeah? But that's going to go very well with the Cabernet Franc, actually.
Pigeon meat. Oh, lovely, yes. In fact, I had it in the Loire before, and it worked beautifully. So yeah, I mean, that finer kind of textured, less fatty meat works beautifully with Cabernet Franc. And what's so nice of Cabernet Franc is it never overtakes, it never dominates your food, because it's something that delivers whatever it has very subtly, and that's why it always pairs well with food.
So I just want to say that no Cabernet Franc has been tested on animals, only on winemakers.
That's why I'm still alive.
Cabernet Franc, being from the Loire, from Bordeaux, and from South Africa, is it a wine that can age? Is it a cultivar that you can keep in a cellar? Will it develop in the bottle? Or it's something you can really enjoy young, maybe slightly fresher? What is your position on that? What do you feel?
If you have to put Cabernet Franc to the other varieties that we've mentioned, what it will bring to, for instance, a blend, is that it gives you the spice, it gives you the elegance and longevity. The reason why Cabernet Franc can mature so well is because it always have lower pHs and great acidities. Even at fuller ripeness, Cabernet Franc tends to keep its acidity very well. And that's one of the reasons why, if we look at, for instance, white wine, why do certain white wines mature so well? Because they got good acidity. So except for the tannin and if it's wood mature, that will help the wine mature, Cabernet Franc has got a added advantage in terms of maturation, in that it has great acidity, so the wine have a longer maturation potential.
And which means great acidity means great with food. It helps you to digest, you feel it lighter, you can drink a second bottle, which is good.
And I've seen it so many times, you know, when we go for parties or for dinners and I put a bottle of Cabernet Franc on the table and everybody tries everything, but the Cabernet Franc is the one that always finishes first, because you go back, a big blockbuster style wine, it's interesting for the first sip and first half a glass, but after that you're looking for something that's going to interest you and that you can actually drink. And that is why, and especially in South African conditions, is that where our red wines tend to have sometimes higher alcohols, Cabernet Franc at 13.5 can still produce fully ripe wines, and that is wonderful to drink a wine with a lower alcohol with so much flavor.
It is always the magic test, for the wine is realize on the morning what wine is left in the bottle. You know, you realize that the lightest wine, the wine that like Cabernet Franc, which are maybe more complex but don't show big physical body, are actually the one that everybody enjoyed and been drinking, where these magic monsters might still be in the bottle.
Absolutely. There's no replacement for complexity and elegance.
Brewer, you have the chance to travel a lot now. Your Cabernet Franc is known around the world, so you've been able to compare with other great wines in the world. Beside your own wine, obviously, which is the best Cab Franc you ever had?
Clos Rougeard.
Clos Rougeard is a Cabernet Franc from the Loire Valley. It's from Saumur-Champigny and is a very fruity, at the same time very complex, deep and terroir-based wine made by a small family in Saumur-Champigny.
There's also Charles Hugo, which is in Chinon, and then Philippe Allier. Any of those three producers is just, I think, benchmark, not just in the Loire, but in the world for Cabernet Franc.
For Cabernet Franc. So for you, Cabernet Franc, definitely your best experience on Cabernet Franc is on the Loire Valley.
That is where it comes from, and that's where Cabernet Franc is made 100% from Cabernet Franc. The moment you put 20% or 30% of that in it, and it's not called Cabernet Franc, although it's dominated by Cabernet Franc, it's very difficult to have a pure expression of Cabernet Franc, and therefore those to me are the benchmark, and they never fail to deliver. They always delivers what I expect from them over vintages.
But that's probably why Cabernet Franc is in French. Cabernet Franc means straight Cabernet. It's not a cross, it's the original Cabernet. That's the one that might have been the longest history. Even in Saint-Emilion, we've been talking about Cabernet Franc from the ancient Roman time. In the Loire Valley, we've got proper texts in French that show Cabernet Franc has been here since the year 12, 13, 1400, which is as long as Pinot Noir was in Burgundy. There's a real track of history on this. So, Brewer, thank you so much to have shared with for Platters TV this vision of Cabernet Franc. And yes, you're the best ambassador of that cultivar. And we all hope that more people will dare to grab a bottle from the shelf or from the wine list, because, as you said, Cabernet Franc's got a lot to offer. It's maybe not the easiest cultivar to go in, but as you say, it's developing in the glass. There's always a layer under to get more dimension into the wine and make it more complex and more pleasant, and great social drink, because there's a lot to talk about this wine.
For sure. I've been producing Cabernet Franc now for 10 vintages. My 2010 vintage was my 10th vintage that I released, and I was trying to make it consistently for 10 years, and I think my challenge for the next 10 years is to make Cabernet Franc popular. My hope is that before I die one day, everybody will drink Cabernet Franc.
At least now everybody from Platters TV will know about Cabernet Franc, and I'm sure that next time you see a Cabernet Franc from one of the great producers from South Africa, owned from Brewer, you will definitely take a chance and get one of these bottles, because it's always worth it. Thanks, Brewer.
Cheers.
Cheers. Okay, for Platters TV, we have the great honor and chance to get Josephine to make us dream about Cabernet Franc, but not Anjou or you know, Touraine like Chinon. Cabernet Franc from South Africa. There's only a few producers making this wonderful wine, but people are often scared to go in the shelf and get a bottle of Cab Franc. What to expect from a Cab Franc? Tell us.
Well, I would say South African Cab Franc are much better than French Cab Franc, like you just mentioned
now
earlier.
you're breaking my heart.
Yes, I'm sorry. And like you said, there's only a few of them, but the ones that there are really, really good. I've been told that Cab Franc is a difficult varietal to grow.
It is.
It needs to ripen properly, otherwise it becomes very, very green. But when you get one that's ripened properly and
But it's so easy to
a
drink.
well-made wine, yes, it's got that little bit of freshness, like a little bit of mintiness, but it's got lots of black currants, oozing with black currants.
And some perfume as well, and
yes,
violet.
Yes, yes,
That's magic.
yes,
I
it
love
is.
that.
Lots
I
of
love
violets.
Cabernet Franc. Josephine, Cabernet Franc, what to mix it with? Food-wise.
Yes.
You're the sommelier, make us dream.
Yes, I will.
She's a
Springbok.
Springbok?
Springbok for me
Like
works
rugby players?
well. Oh yeah, I'll take one of those.
Okay.
But in the lack of one of those, I'll eat the Springbok. with,
Roasted, grilled, potki.
pan-fried.
Pan-fried.
A little bit more elegant dish. I think this is an elegant wine. You need an elegant wine, an
So
elegant
just
food.
only a few Springbok players.
Yes, only
Okay.
a few Springbok players, and me enjoying the Springbok pan-fried.
Okay.
And the red wine dew, a bit of gremulata butter to get that little bit of greenness to be picked up in the wine.
You can see herbs, you can see spices.
Yes.
It's vegetal. It's almost grippy on the tongue, but it's still very soft. It's like the tannins. You can feel they hear the jump on you, but they're fairly still restrained.
Exactly. In comparison to many other varietals, it's unique, but it's got such a complexity.
I love being unique. I should be
Me
Cabernet
too.
Franc one day.
If you were a grape varietal, you would have been Cabernet Franc.
I love
Or
Cabernet
maybe,
Franc. Then
yeah, I think so. You wouldn't
yes,
be Pinot Noir, no.
I would love to be Pinot Noir.
Yeah, but you
But
wouldn't be.
Cabernet Franc is very good. So, Josephine, thank you for your opinion on Cabernet Franc and your dreams about Cabernet Franc. I'll keep that in mind. And their Cabernet Franc, it's very unusual. It's not only limited to a blend in a Bordeaux blend. Cabernet Franc on its own can make magic wines in South Africa.
Agree.
Thank you, Josephine.
Pleasure.